Is diversity a good thing? Now, of course, diversity, that's a really popular buzzword these days. But a question that I want to explore is, when is diversity a good thing? And when is unity, which we always assume, unity, achdus, coming together, such positive associations, when could that possibly be negative, something that we want to avoid? So the Emissary Yaakov, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, asks, at the beginning of the Parsha it says, Vayakhel Moshe kol hadas b'nei Israel, that Moshe gathered together all the different fragments of the Jewish people. And the question is, what was he gathering them from? What was the purpose of gathering them? When did the Jewish people become fractured and split? So the Emissary Yaakov says, we have to understand what happened last week when we read in Kisisa about the golden calf, about the Jewish people betrayed God by creating this molten image, this idol in his place. Ha'egel haya ha'hefech shel matan Torah. The sin of the golden calf was the antithesis of us receiving the Torah from God. How so? Well, when we received the Torah from God, it says, Vayichan Yisrael ki'isha echad b'lev echad, the Medrash tells us, that when the Jewish people, it's a famous song of course as well, when we were resting at the foot of the mountain, waiting to receive the Torah from God, that was a moment of national unity. Each and every Jew and their brother and sister were all with one heart and one purpose. That was the pinnacle of Jewish unity. And then came along the Egel. Then came along the sin of the golden calf. And what happened during the golden calf? Now, most times when we hear the story, we imagine they created this golden calf and everybody worshipped it. A great unity, right? Unity for something bad. But actually, what the Emissary Yaakov tells us is, Shebein hashvatim atzman hayu chilukei deos b'mi yivcharu. Among the Jewish people themselves, when they were deciding on what kind of idol to make, there were chilukei deos. They could not come to a consensus as to what kind of idol they wanted to create. V'lo boli de ichud, v'asakol shevot eloah la'atzmo. So each and every tribe, the Jewish people, made their own idol. V'hainu egel meyuchim l'chol shevet. Each and every Shevet Reuben had their own idol, the tribe of Judah had their own idol, the tribe of Zevulun had one idol for themselves, and so what it did was, the idol wasn't just idolatry, it didn't just separate them from God, but it fractured the Jewish people themselves. And that's why Moshe had to come along. Moshe had to come along and do Vayakhel Moshe. He had to gather the Jewish people. When Moshe came to tell the Jewish people about creating the Mishkan, the tabernacle, his first priority, the prerequisite, was to gather the Jewish people and reunite them. To bring them into one place for one purpose, to serve God. Beautiful. So if I were to end here, we would assume that unity is always the goal. The more we come together, the better we are. And the more divided, the more diversity there is, the more fractured we are, and the worse off we are. And that is generally the case. But I want to read to you something, an essay I came by, a well-known philosopher in this early state of Israel, Yeshayahu Leibowitz. And in his essay on state and religion, Yeshayahu Leibowitz takes almost an antithetical approach to unity. In fact, he says, the time has come for a fundamental examination of the slogan national unity without making it into a sacred cow. Yeshayahu Leibowitz, he said, we shouldn't blindly all unite under this principle, this value called unity. Why? Because no object of value, in every sense of the word value, has ever been achieved through national unity. Every object of value has only been achieved through splits and internal struggles. What Yeshayahu Leibowitz warns us is, yes, unity is generally thought of as a positive thing. And I would say in most scenarios, we like to encourage unity. We like to encourage people working together, of course, in harmony, of course, in tranquility, and that is the goal. But sometimes, achdus, unity, can be used by people who are in positions of power to maintain a status quo that serves their purposes, but does not serve the purposes of everyone else. And what achdus sometimes could be, God forbid, weaponized to do is to be used to create groupthink, to create complacency, where I'm happy with the way things are, and if I challenge anything, then you're challenging the sacred cow of achdus. How can you give an opinion that's different than what everyone else is thinking? That's against the unity. Yeshayahu Leibowitz comes to warn us against this idea of the overbearing and sometimes the negative approach that some people can misuse the positive value of achdus. And in fact, that's actually what happened. When Moshe Rabbeinu came down, and assuming, especially according to Pshat, there was only one egel, only one golden calf, he could have said, oh, look, the Jewish people are united. They're all worshiping this new calf, this golden calf that they created. Why do I want to disturb their unity, right? He could have said that, achdus, why should I impinge on their achdus? But instead, came along Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, Mila Hashem Elai, or for Hashem, come to me to serve God. And it created some fractures in the Jewish people. A lot of people weren't happy with Moshe Rabbeinu that day. But ultimately, the arbiter of what's right and what's wrong, of when achdus, when unity is a good thing, and when we need to challenge the status quo, is not that it's inherently good always to be unified, and not that it's inherently bad always to have some form of diversity, a difference of opinion. But ultimately, as Emes Yaakov says, what determines when achdus is good is if it's b'makom echad u'matara achas. If we are unified for the same goal, the goal of serving Hashem and of serving God. If we could agree to at least that basic principle, then we encourage diversity within those parameters. We encourage different ideas and sometimes challenging the status quo. But if achdus is to be utilized against people, if it's to be utilized against other opinions, then it can lead to negative consequences, God forbid. And so may we all be unified together. Unified to serve others, unified to help others in our community, and not just for our own needs, but for other people's needs. And of course, in the service of the Melech, Malchi HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may we unify together in achdus to receive the Torah always, to keep the Torah, and to serve God through His Torah. Good Shabbos.